Hi, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Ryan, and welcome to the show where we review stories and their movie adaptations. One of us reads the story first and then watches the movie. The other watches the movie and then reads the story. And we give you our recommendations for which order gives you the best experience.
Absolutely. And today's episode is Drive My Car. Drive My Car is a short story written by Haruki Murakami. Haruki Murakami was born in Kyoto, Japan in 1949 and thus came of age around the height of Beatlemania. He's a big Beatles fan. Murakami published a short story collection, and pardon my Japanese, Onai no Inai Otokotachi, in 2014, in his original Japanese. This collection was published as Men Without Women in 2017, translated into English by Philip Gabriel and Theodore Goosen. Drive My Car is the first story in this collection, and it was translated by Goosen. The story Drive My Car tells the story of a middle-aged theater actor named Kafuku, who grapples with the memories of his dead wife while being driven around by a young woman hired by his car mechanic. Kafuku had gotten into a small accident and therefore was no longer able to drive himself around. Drive My Car as a standalone story has a Goodreads average rating of 3.7 out of 5, which is about 7.4 out of 10. The whole collection, Men Without Women, has a Goodreads average rating of 3.77 out of 5, or 7.54 out of 10.
About the same thing.
Pretty similar, basically the same. 7.4, 7.5-ish. So that's the story.
So the movie came out in 2021 originally in Japan. I think it didn't come out till early 2022 in the U.S.
Yeah.
Directed by and also pardon my I got a bunch of names to read.
Pardon
pronunciation
our
of Japanese for this whole episode, but directed by Ryusuke Hamaguchi. And it tells a story of Yusuke Kafuku, a theater actor whose wife dies, and he continues to work on his theater productions, and goes and signs on and is about to work on a production for a company that requires that he be driven around, but he doesn't want to at first, and so they enter into that relationship, and that's basically kind of the premise of the movie. It stars Hidetoshi Nishijima as Yusuke Kafuku, Reika Kirishima as Oto Kafuku, his wife, Toko Miura as Misaki Watari, the driver, and Masaki Okada as Koji Takatsuki, and who is the younger actor, one of his wife's lovers, and they on Rotten Tomatoes, Drive My Car has a critic score of 97% and an audience score of 78%.
Okay, difference there. Interesting, but what do we think of the story and the book? Let's give you our rating. So I read the story first, and then I watched the movie. After reading the story, I gave that a 7 out of 10. Then I watched the movie and gave that a 7.7 out of 10.
So I watched the movie first and then read the story, and I gave the movie an 8.8 out of 10, and I gave the story a 7 out of 10.
Wow,
same score.
We haven't done that yet.
I don't think so. I don't think
Same
we ever had the
score.
same exact score on something, but
yeah, congratulations, Haruki Murakami.
We did it. Season finale.
Season finale, 7 out of 7.
7 out of 7.
For Drive My Car, the story. Wonderful. Okay, and on that happy note, here's your spoiler alert. We're going to talk about why we gave those scores for the story in the book. While we do that, we're going to give away all the details of the plot. So if you care about spoilers, if you haven't read it or watched it, skip to the end when we give our final recommendation. If you're caught up on the reading and watching, or you just don't care about spoilers, stick around. Let's talk about those scores. Well, I would want to start with the story. It's shorter, and we gave the same exact score. That's interesting. So, not affected by watching the movie first?
I guess not. I don't think so. I don't think it did. I mean, it is a very similar premise, and the overall idea that he has to process about like his wife's death is the same thing.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Having to come to terms with that he loves her still, even though she hurt him by doing, by cheating on him all the time, and she didn't know that he knew, but he knew, and still, but it bothered him, So he has this conflict that that he loves her and misses her, but also like, can't come to terms with that fact that she did that. And then also throughout the story kind of is told in a different way or a little bit, that perhaps she could have been she could have still loved him just as much, even though she did that. She could have still, those two things can be true. She could have loved him and she could have
just those seeming contradictions can exist at the same time, but then grappling with there's nothing you can do about it now. You can never know for sure. Things like that. I agree. They're definitely similar in the overall premise and a lot of the things that happen vaguely.
Oh, yeah. I guess what I was going to say is even though they are similar, you might think one could affect the other. And since the story is so short, there's a lot more details that have been added to the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But they stuck very similarly to what the story was, like I was saying. So I don't think it affected it. Knowing what happened in the movie, there wasn't anything that was hugely different in the way that would, make one better or worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll get into some of the details of the differences, but first I want to just say some things about the story. First of all, I jotted down that if Murakami were not a Beatles fan, I feel like this short story might have been called Blind Spot. I think that would have been a good title. It mentioned Blind Spot in there somewhere. I thought the same thing after watching the movie.
He also has that in his eye.
Yeah, he has the glaucoma thing. Yeah. There's there's something in there about blind spot in car. It could have the double meaning. Just like the fact that she didn't know that he knew they were cheating. There's things about what you know and don't know or can't know. So Blind Spot I thought could have been a good title for either one. Just something I thought of. And something that made me think that is like, I was expecting there to be a Beatles tape in Kafuku's car when he was talking about the car, and then he still listens to cassettes. I just thought it was going to be more on the nose, where it's like, let's listen to Drive My Car by the Beatles.
Yeah.
But
the only thing he listens to are recordings of himself
reading the
lines or whatever.
Yeah, so once I learned that that's part of it, then that went away. But yeah, more specifically about the actual story, my favorite part in the short story, where there's a description at the end of Kafuku trying to, I think he closes his eyes and is just listening to the engine. He's trying to hear when the engine switches, like when she switches gears. But she's really good at driving, and the car's really smooth, so he can't hear the moment when it switches gears. And it compares it to like the sound of when you hear an insect flying closer to your head and further away, and it's just like the hum slowly gets louder and quieter, but you don't know exactly where it is. I just really liked that description, the way it was written in the story, and it kind of fit in nicely with the themes of things kind of being fluid and not exact, not being able to pin things down, getting a simple answer. So I just liked the way that was written. So, not my favorite thing I've read even by Murakami, but I liked the writing, and also shout out to Theodore Goosen for translating, because that's how we get to experience it. And that's pretty much it. After I finished it, the first thing I jotted down was it's pretty short.
This one's 40 pages or something, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, so not short for a short story, but after reading 40 pages, I was like, oh, I wonder how they'll turn it into a full-length movie. And then I saw that the movie's 3 hours. Long, yeah. So then that just... Yeah. made me wonder, like, what are they going to put in the movie? That kind of gets
into my next note a little bit, where I know I just said that off the top of my head now, thinking back, I didn't think that any affected the other, but actually the note that I wrote down was that I think that watching the movie first made me like the story better.
Oh, yeah.
To me, because to me, the movie, so, like, detailed and brilliantly fleshes everything out while staying true to my main idea of the story, so that when I was reading the story, so many of the details from the movie kind of helped like almost fill in everything that's not in the story, that you would have made you feel like you wish the story was longer. To me, watching the movie first, and I had all that all around it, it made it almost fill in. Really, and I think I maybe liked the story better having watched the movie first.
Yeah, I could see that, because I did at the end of it think like, okay, not that much happened in the story when I read it. I guess I was expecting more to happen, but that's, without having seen a full 3 hours of all the stuff they had to embellish the story in the movie.
Yeah, there's so much stuff, and I don't know if we get to all of it, but I mean, my general idea behind the movie is like the cinematography in it is very good. All the shots that they have and everything.
True. That absolutely
the one that stands out to me is the shot when, it's just at this weird angle when they're at these steps near the water.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, when he tells her, when he first tells Misaki Watari about his wife's death.
That's a great shot of the water.
And it's a long shot, kind of like it's there for a while. And it's long, but it's not boring. It's only one it's that angle the whole time that he's telling her about this, but it looks so good, and so much of the movie looks really good, like that shot very well, and so that was huge, and it was really good. But everything in it, I thought it was. I always kind of think this sometimes when watching foreign films of like, can I judge whether people are good actors in them? It seems like they were in this. But I don't know how I can necessarily tell that. Actually, somebody who stood out, who I didn't write down, so I don't know her name, and it looked like I remember looking it up, and it looks like she's not in very much, but was the actress in the play who did the sign language.
Oh yeah,
I thought she was very good in the movie.
Yeah, the whole dinner scene where she gets to sign a lot, and then her husband's translating to Kafuku and the driver. Yeah, she got to be a character a lot.
Mm-hmm. That was an impression that I got even when she first auditioned in there. Was like, somehow this seems like a moving audition, even though she's just doing it in sign language.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought the actors overall seemed like they did a good job. The translation thing is like.
Did you watch it subtitled?
I watched it with subtitles.
Yeah.
Is there a dubbed version?
I think I had the option to watch it dubbed.
I thought when I was doing it there was only like subtitles and then English like descriptive audio.
Oh, I don't know.
I didn't even try that. I don't know.
I don't watch stuff dubbed because it seems
even
weirder. I'd rather hear the natural sounds of them talking, and then I can read what the translation is. That's that's a good point. And just on that, I liked the whole multilingual theater concept. Oh yeah, that was interesting.
I don't know how much that would actually work logistically in real life, but it's a cool idea. They explain how it works because they translate. There's some English in there, and that would be lost if you tried to watch a dub one. They would all be speaking English. You know what I mean?
Would they do that, or would they leave the other languages except for Japanese in their language
and then put subtitles?
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. It definitely stood out to me when they first started doing it because, I'm reading English subtitles, hearing them speak Japanese, and then I don't know if it introduced the concept. I don't think it really did until it showed already they're doing a play, and then he's speaking Japanese, and the guy speaks back in German, and I was like, what? Wait, what? It just caught me by surprise. I was like, that's not Japanese. And shout out Duolingo. I was like, that's German. Yeah, so that was a cool idea. And then they explain it later when they're auditioning people, and they're like, okay, we do it a little bit differently. She speaks Korean and English. The other guy speaks just Japanese, I think. And sign language.
Yeah, like you're saying, the logistics of that are kind of interesting because like Kafuku is like, I guess, what, the director of it,
he's the
kind
director,
of too, and and he's doing the auditions, but he clearly doesn't speak all those languages either because he has a translator to translate some of the, I think it's the Korean or something that he doesn't know.
Yeah, I think he only spoke Japanese and English.
Yeah, so how does he judge the rest of it, right?
Yeah, that's what made it seem weird, but also it's believable in the movie because he says directions in Japanese and in English, and then the translator guy says it in Korean and he signs it. And then also, I don't know, it seemed like the way he was directing it, he seemed very strict about just read the words and know when your part comes after who.
That's why they did the knock thing. Was interesting.
Knock when they're done.
Knock when they're done.
So you don't really need to know what the other person is saying.
Well, I just mean, how does he judge if somebody's doing a good job? I guess it's just in whatever comes out in the emotion of it or something, right? Which is kind of interesting with what Takatsuki was frustrated with is he just wanted them to read it and not get into that part of it at that point.
He was chastising him for being too emotional of anything. Don't show the emotions, just read the words. Yeah. So that's an interesting way that would make it more logistically possible. Is we're not judging it based on the emotional performance. It's just play your part at your time.
But it clearly was emotional because then they get into that later when they have an emotional connection part between the woman who does sign language and I don't remember who else, and one of the other actresses.
Yeah, the girl that spoke Korean and English.
Yeah,
when they were practicing outside.
And they were practicing outside. So
I think it was more for the sake of practicing, memorizing where your part is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he does in the car. You just listen to it over and over and over again until it's muscle memory, and that's how you get past not knowing the exact words. That was a cool whole concept that's added to the movie.
Yeah, because a lot of things are added around the whole thing.
Yeah. And on that note, another thing I jotted down was, to make it 3 hours long, it's interesting how it goes back in time to before the story starts and shows a lot of the things that it just tells vaguely in the story. For example, Kafuku going back home when his flight's canceled and seeing his wife cheating with the younger actor guy. Which
even in the movie, you almost think that, this is the first time that this is happening. Oh, yeah. So that's why his reaction seems like, this is his reaction to just leave.
Because he's just kind of...
He doesn't really do anything.
Leaves,
yeah, it seems like he's affected by it, but he doesn't do anything. And I was kind of wondering that. But then later you find out that... Oh, she did that. It's not the first time she used to do that. He tells that later, which is, again, a little nuanced way of they're not beating you over the head with directly telling you everything at once. They just show you things that happen, and they give you the details come later when, he tells us a story.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so, you gave the movie a higher score, but I also gave it a higher score than I gave the story, so I think that's something the movie does better overall, is showing instead of just telling everything.
Yeah, yeah. It fits really well with the cinematography thing.
Yeah.
Too, of, you can do a lot without directly saying it.
Not explaining it to the reader or the viewer, but just, you kind of get to see it happen, see it play out.
Which kind of actually plays into when Takatsuki, beats that guy up. That's all off screen.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It stays on the shot of the car as
you don't even know.
Yeah, as Watari's there and leaves the screen to go do something real fast, and then Kafuku comes out and meets her, and it's where's where's Takatsuki, and he comes down. He comes down the steps again, and then later that comes out that
when he
died or whatever, and that guy that he beat up died, and then he gets arrested.
I thought still, that was really
it's an interesting way to do it, where what happened, but they,
but you don't know.
Well, you don't know exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's what's so compelling about it, though, because you see the guy take a picture of him.
Yeah,
he hates that already. Yeah, but then when the guy goes off camera, he follows him, and when he came back, I was even wondering. I'm like, did he punch him? Did he remember what Kafuku said and he just gave up? Maybe he didn't do anything.
Yeah, well, I figured he did something, but I wouldn't have figured he would have killed him. And obviously he didn't mean to kill him, I don't think.
Yeah,
but
either way, it's a shock at the end when the cops show up and they're like, we need to take you to jail because that guy went to the hospital and died, and he's kind of like, I saw on the news.
Yeah, and that's part of something that helps Kafuku kind of come to some closure and get over the stuff with his wife to act in the play again.
Yeah, because he was supposed to play that guy's part, but then another thing I noted about it, how it goes back in time, is that it was 37 minutes into the movie before his wife even dies. And in the story, she's already dead at the beginning. Yeah. So, like, that already tells you how much they add to the beginning.
Wow, I didn't know it was even that long before she died.
Yeah, I checked the time as I was watching it. And then it does opening credits. Like, 40 minutes into the movie, it says, drive my car, and has the opening credits.
Yeah, because it's after she died, and it's, like, at the beginning of when it's going to tell him doing this other job, right? Isn't that when it comes in?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Like,
it's
pretty far into the movie to have opening credits.
I forgot about that. It's kind of cool. It splits it up as like, here's the backstory, and now here's the
this is like where the story starts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was cool. Here's like a question I had for what they changed. Well, first of all, there's the scene where he gets in a car crash. Mm-hmm. And then he learns he has glaucoma. Right then, again, I thought this could have been called blind spot. But whatever. But then later when he gets the other job, I wondered, why did they have the car crash and the glaucoma scenes if the reason he needs a driver in the movie is that it's just the rules of this new theater company?
Yeah, why did they need that specific detail?
Yeah, because those were the reasons in the book that you can't drive.
They played in the glaucoma thing a little bit to make it a specific detail about him and his wife and that kind of stuff. For one, it made it dramatic because that happened like after he caught his wife cheating on him that one time, and then he gets hit, and then it makes it dramatic because, I don't know, for me too, the viewer thinks, oh, that's the first time that happened, and then he just like walked away, and then she meets him at the hospital, like, and then like nothing happened, and everything seems fine, and it's kind of like, what? This is weird. What's going on with this? But then later, when he has the big long conversation with Takatsuki in the back of the car, when they actually really address what's going on, and he's the one in the movie who tells him like all about like how he knows his wife and stuff like that, all those kinds of things. He tells Kafuku the ending of the story that his wife has been, that he'd never heard. And it includes like him or like her, because the story is all about like this
the girl
who is obsessed with the boy and breaks into the house but doesn't ever like tell him or whatever, and leaves little hints. And one day, it's not that like she gets caught, like somebody comes home, a robber comes in, and she has to stab him and kill him. She stabs him in the eye. Oh, you remember that? Oh, yeah. And so that's when he even goes up and touches his eye, because it seems to me that story is his wife's, like, it's her inner thoughts, and that's what I was thinking, is that she is the girl in the story where. She's almost like, flirting with like leaving or doing these things with other men. But not quite doing it, not quite going all the way, and not leaving the love, thing and everything of the marriage. And then he's the robber somehow. Yeah,
because when he comes home, type of thing.
Yeah, or whatever. He's the robber, and so like that made me think that. That explored, I don't know if this is what was intended, but to me that made me think it explores the idea that, he did stuff where in the marriage he also wasn't perfect. That's why he's the robber in this, who breaks into the house.
Taking things away from her.
Yeah, and however, she also potentially blames herself as being the one who stabs him. It's like, it's this whole story about they both are doing bad things to each other and can still love each other.
Yeah, that adds
in
an
a marriage.
Interesting dimension.
It's a whole like really, when that whole conversation is like, I need to watch it again because it's so deep.
I definitely want to now that you're explaining it that way, because that also adds so much to like him, Kafuku, and his wife then really were talking about all the things that are going on. Yeah. When she tells him that story, they are talking about it.
Yeah.
But just not directly. Mm-hmm. And then he never got to hear the ending except for from him in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me want to rewatch that part too. Yeah, you're convincing me that maybe I should have given it a higher score, and maybe I'll rewatch it and reconsider. I just have two other little things I jotted down. Well, one is there's the scene when Kafuku straight up tells the young actor all the stuff that's subtext in the story. The first time that they drink together, they like talk about his wife. Mm-hmm. I was just surprised that right from the beginning he like puts it all out there.
Because in the story he doesn't tell him at all ever, right?
Yeah, he just eventually
they stop being friends.
Yeah, he eventually stops calling him back. He just cuts him off, and the guy never knows that he knew. So that just stood out to me as a difference.
It's a big difference too, because they know the whole time.
Yeah,
and then they have that big deep conversation about it. Even. Yeah.
And then the ending. So the ending, it cuts to later, and Kafuku dies, right? Because it cuts to the driver. I forget her name. She has his car.
Yeah, Misaki Watari.
Yeah, Watari.
Yeah.
And she is in Korea, it looked like. It looked like she went to Korea, and she has a dog.
Yeah, she had a dog. So did it say that he died?
No,
or
that's
just assuming that because she had his car.
That's what I assumed. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what did you think of the ending? I assumed he died.
I just assumed that that's another part of his letting go through the grief process of just like giving away the car, because he also long held that he had to drive it. And there was one point right when when they first left the hospital, or is that where it was, that his wife was driving him, and he was kind of paying attention to it. Didn't really explicitly do it, but he was paying attention to how she was driving.
Yeah, he mentioned something about
it wasn't as good.
Why didn't she take this turn or switch lanes? Or something?
So I think he's coming to terms with, he knew his wife less than he thought he did, so he can let that go, and so maybe he can let this car go to somebody who clearly cares about the car, which is there's a little bit of that in letting part of his wife at least go to Takatsuki, who also clearly cared about his wife. Yeah. And so enough that Takatsuki is the one who heard the ending of that story. So that's a little bit of a letting go of some of his wife to him and letting her have some of that. So I don't know, I was kind of thinking he can also let his car that he also loved go to somebody else who also loves the car. Yeah. And, it was that kind of thing. Gave her the car. She also is like obviously way more fleshed out in the movie, where she has this whole story where her mom was like abusive, right? And but she still like loved her and blames herself for not having tried to save her from the landslide, kind of thing. And they even go out there to the house. Yeah, and they go out to their house, and that's where she says that her mom had this other other personality. That comes out that she thinks she created to try to help her as this little girl or something. And and that's I think when she tells Kafuku that isn't it possible that your wife could be both of these things in one person, and her mother was. So they had such a connection too, and the fact that he saw her, she was the same age as their daughter would have been, as Kafuku's daughter would have been if she had not died. So that's what I imagined, is just another thing that he just gave her the car. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I mean, I thought of all those themes because he definitely comes around to her as a person. They get a deep connection, and he used to not trust other people to drive his car, but there's the scene when they're at dinner where he talks so much about how she's a great driver and all of that. I don't know why I assumed that he died, though. He would have had to die to give the car to her. It just, I don't know, seemed like that would have been a big ending. He dies, but he trusts her enough to let her get the car. But I like your interpretation that he can still be alive somewhere and trust her enough to give her the car.
Yeah. I have a couple little minor differences that don't really matter, but just little differences that I kind of wrote down. That in the book, the car is yellow instead of red, and it's a convertible. Oh, in the book,
I forgot that they mentioned what color it was.
Yeah, they said it was yellow, and the fact that it's convertible is because he let her smoke, but only when the top's down. Yeah. Whereas in the movie,
it was the sunroof, though.
They did that, but he didn't let her smoke at all until one time later. I think it was probably after that conversation with Takatsuki, and they dropped him off or something, and then he told her that she could smoke basically. Yeah. The one time she's like, "Are you sure?" And then that's when he held out the sunroof or whatever. I think.
Yeah, I remember the convertible thing. I don't remember them mentioning it's yellow. I wonder why they would change that. Maybe
I don't know. Red maybe looks better
on
for
screen.
yeah.
Some kind of cinematography.
Yeah.
Cinematographic choice.
Cinematographic.
Yeah, I don't know the word.
And then that in the book, his wife has been 10 years. Instead of in the movie, it was 2. It skipped 2 years ahead.
Oh, yeah, 2 years later.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
That is a big difference because, that means, like, I don't know, the driver would have been really young when she did die. You know what I mean? Because she's like 20-something.
Yeah.
Just because, like, in the book, it does mention that the
saying.
driver's the same age as that their daughter would have been.
As their daughter, yeah.
So...
Yeah, it just basically...
a different timeline.
Yeah, just a different timeline. And then that the driver in the book was recommended by the mechanic that's working on his car.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that.
Instead of hired by a theater company. Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah.
But there... Okay, so one little nod that I found was in the movie... Or... so there's this... phrase in the book, a quote, I don't even remember where it is because I didn't write it down, is you have to keep an eye on the electrical system, is mentioned in the book. I think he probably tells the mechanic that that you have to keep an eye, because they're not driving his car in the... Oh no, they are driving his car because he gets it back. Yeah, and then he can't drive it because he can't see, right? Yeah. I think he probably tells Misaki that, but
I remember that in the movie.
Yeah, but that quote is from the book. I should have written down more context of it. But in the book, there's the quote: "You have to keep an eye on the electrical system." Where in the movie, Misaki asks about the electrical system. How's the electrical system? Because
she's like, "Oh, because I know these older cars
could have So that's like, it seemed like a clear nod in there.
Something about the electrical system.
Yeah. And then, I know how Google Translate's not super great, but I just did it for fun because, like, in both the book and the movie, Kafuku mentions that his name's unusual, the name Kafuku, which he explains means house of good fortune. But I put, because he says his name's unusual, and there's multiple meanings to, like,
when it translates.
To the translations of what are you called, letters, Japanese letters or whatever, they can mean multiple things, right? As far as I know, I think is the case. But anyway,
in the comments.
I put Kafuku into Google Translate, and it translates to lower abdomen.
Lower abdomen?
Yeah.
Like your guts?
So, I don't know.
That's interesting.
Just a weird thing that I decided to do.
Or House of Good Fortune. Yeah. If you speak Japanese or can read Japanese, let us know in the comments. What does Kafuku mean?
You want to get to final recommendations?
Yeah, let's just do final recommendations. Welcome back. If you skipped the spoiler part, here's our final recommendations. I'll go first this time since I read first. So I read the story first, then watched the movie. Based on my score, I liked the movie better, but my final recommendation for the order, I would say flip a coin. They're both good. I don't think either of them are like super great, but they're different enough that I don't think experiencing one before the other will ruin the other one. So, I don't know. I would say check both of them out, but the order's not that important. Although the movie's a little bit better.
Yeah. I'll be your coin flip for you.
Okay.
Watch the movie first. To me, the movie is very good, and I gave it an 8.8, but I would say I think that this movie I think I'll like it more on subsequent viewings because there's so much in it.
I'm already
that I'll get
rethinking that myself.
deeper views. I think I can go higher than an 8.8 if I watch it again, which is pretty high. I mean, critics have it at 97. Critics think it's like almost a perfect movie.
That's true.
So it is very good. And so I already had mentioned before that I think that that watching the movie made me rate the book higher. So I'm going to say watch the movie first, then read the book. And because I think the movie is so good, I would avoid getting any kinds of spoilers about the story at all from the book and experience it in the movie. And I don't think the book will be worse off or spoiled from that. That would be my recommendation.
I think that's a good conclusion. Yeah. There's the answer to the coin flip. Watch the movie first, because even if you'd have skipped our discussion, he did a good job of convincing me to watch the movie again. So I'm feeling maybe I didn't rate it high enough. But on that note, what's the average of our scores? We both gave the story a 7. That averages out to a 7. But that actually means that the story might be a little overrated, because it has a 7.4 out of 10 if we translate the Goodreads score to our scale. So, yeah, maybe the short story's a little overrated, but if we look at the movie...
if we look at the movie, I give it an 8.8, and Dylan gave it a 7.7. The average score there is an 8.25. Very good score. We still think that the critics probably think it's a little overrated, or a good amount overrated. Although I think we both agree that we both may like this better on subsequent viewings. Yeah. And the critics may have something there, that there's just so much into this movie.
Yeah, my score is right around the audience score.
Right.
But I think I missed a lot of details that if I watch it again, I probably would catch more and enjoy
and
it
so we're telling you right now, audience, you're underrating this. Watch it again.
Yes.
And pay attention to it. Don't go, oh, it's 3 hours long. Pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah. Pay attention. So it's averaged out. It's somewhere between what the audience and the critics think, we'll say. Maybe it's not the best movie of all time, but definitely worth a close watch, maybe a rewatch. And
so where these land in our overall rankings is the Drive My Car movie hits tied for number 5, the number 5 spot with 10 Things I Hate About You at 8.25. Above 8.0 though is good, is pretty good.
It's a very good score.
And then the Drive My Car story is kind of down near the bottom here.
Just above the Last Duels.
Yeah, The Taming of the Shrew and The Last Duels, and then Drive My Car, which is pretty low, tied with All the Pretty Horses, the movie. But compared to other things on our list, we think that it's good. It's but it's not super, super great.
Yeah, we don't really have anything in the negative side of things on our running total. Yeah. So it's not horrible to be down near the bottom, but definitely out of all these things we've read and watched, it's, not high on the list to go run and check out.
Yeah.
So, let us know in the comments what you think of Drive My Car, the story. What do you think of Drive My Car, the movie?
And this will conclude not only this episode, but this season, pending any bonus episodes we may throw out there. That's up to our discretion.
Yes. Whoa, Ryan, don't give away our secret plans just yet. Hi, editing Dylan here with different hair. I know. I just wanted to say that yes, it's true. This episode here is wrapping up season 1 of Adaptation Station. If you're wondering what to do while you wait around for season 2 to start airing, don't you worry. I have got 4 books for you to read in the meantime. First of all, I just released my debut novel. It's called Animal City, Cannibal World. I'm really excited for you to read it, and you can find the link down in the description so that you can order yourself a copy. It's a spooky detective mystery story, so it's a perfect read for right now in the October Halloween season. Get it while it's hot. And also down there in the description, you'll see our other books, my collection of poetry, A Word Is Not What It Means, and you'll see Ryan's 2 collections of poetry, Mold, and the other one is Reflections and Falling and Loving What's Lost. Also stay tuned because I think Ryan's going to be releasing another book very soon. But Dylan, how can I stay tuned? Great question. I'm glad you asked. First of all, you can follow both of us on Instagram at Ryan Kenneth Allen, at Dillon Allen-Perez. And of course, if you haven't already, you should subscribe to this here YouTube channel. Hit the little bell icon. That way you'll get a notification anytime we release any secret bonus episodes or anything like that. All right, that's it. Back to the other guys to finish up this episode. This is wrapping up season 1 of Adaptation Station. Thank you to all the viewers who have watched all of these episodes. Thank you for watching this episode. We do plan on making another season of this in the future. Stick around. Maybe check out some of these other videos you see on the screen that we've already made. And then we'll see you next season. Bye.